amnesty ticket and pre-select some of those caught up in Mexico's immigration controls. Word of the program has spread like wildfire, as you'd expect, swamping border camps involved in the program, according to a report by immigration expert Tom Bensman with the Center for Immigration Studies. Thousands are hearing about this new legal way in and swamping an expanding system of Mexican shelters that gradually feed their occupants through America's ports of entry. Now, here's the program. They describe it. Listen to this. Twice a day, 7 days a week since September, Mexicali city officials working closely with the Biden's U.S. Customs and Border Protection on a secure shared CBP-1 online platform select hundreds of people a month for their escorted government-to-government handoffs through the land port of entry to Calexico, California. Once the Americans check their paperwork, they legally admit intending illegal border crossers into the U.S. interior under a questionable authority known as, quote, humanitarian or significant public benefit parole. Quote, they are free to start new lives under the benefit with work authorization and the right to apply for asylum, part of the package. Bensman said that officials in Mexicali gave him access to the legalized border crossing operation that began in September from several bases. So they're basically picking a few illegal immigrants. I guess they are saying that they are not a risk to society. They don't have any known drug or gang affiliations. And if you're okay, they basically will give you a visa and let you come in. And then how can you not see why we're having record numbers of people coming to the border when we basically have a gaping size hole in the system that this administration is supposed to be guarding? This is absolutely outrageous. I hope that when the Republicans take over Congress, this is one of the first things that they have a hearing about, and I hope this is one of the first things that they get shut down. And I've talked about this many times before as the president of Americans for Citizen Voting, but these people here that I just described, that they are letting into the country legally, and they're going to give them work visas and permits, are going to eventually end up on the voting rolls somewhere in these blue states and blue jurisdictions that want to have non-citizens vote. They're going to have a legal driver's license, and as Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State of Ohio, said, trying to segregate between non-citizen voters and citizens in voters is going to be a absolute nightmare, and that was one of the reasons why he was adamantly opposed to it, and that's why Ohioans a couple of Tuesdays ago voted in high fashion not to allow non-citizens voting in their country. But this is, I'm not one of these type of people that say write your congressman, write your senator, but this may be one of those instances where I break that rule, because this is just a flagrant breaking of the law and a disrespect of citizens of the United States to import people in to take low-skilled jobs of African Americans and others. So write your congressman, call your congressman, do whatever you need. Our people in Washington need to know about this. And that is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Chris, there's definitely certain issues that the media, big tech, the Democrats, the left don't want to discuss because they're probably supermajority issues.
Yeah.
Like the question,
like this.
Should we have a country that protects and safeguards its borders? I think nearly all Americans, except for the far lunatic fringe, would say yes. And so, therefore, Chris, like you said, there was basically a media blackout on this issue with very few exception leading up to the election itself. Instead, they had to promote abortion rights, January 6th, threats to democracy. Well, I can't think of a bigger threat to democracy than having the southern border of your country wide open. And then with these programs, they actually have government programs that are inviting people in that probably wouldn't fit under the letter or spirit of the law in any other situation.
And how can we negotiate with Mexico when publicly we're upbraiding them? The Trump administration was, and the Biden administration to a certain extent, saying they need to clean up their border, they need to put more troops on it. Even Biden has said that to a certain extent. And then you're doing this backdoor deal where you're working with officials in Mexicali and allowing people into the country. And this is what I don't understand. Why are they doing this on a, quote, secure shared CBP1 online platform? Why the secrecy of doing this?
Yeah.
Why all the secrecy?
Right. If it's okay, if it's on the up and up, right? Yeah. And I don't understand. I know some people love to vacation in the resort towns of Mexico, but I would love if Americans would kind of wake up and kind of realize what they're doing there. You're like supporting a government that's basically okay with ours being invaded by them. It's like, why Americans don't go, you know what? And you don't have to do it. I'm not a big boycott person, but we are literally supporting a nation that is not running itself, right? It's run by drug cartels.
Yeah, it's been like that for years,
for decades.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
The company Mexico is notoriously known as being a corrupt country. Yeah. Period. It always has been. I mean, you've had reformers try to come in, but I mean, the corruption is so entrenched all the way down from the local police officer taking bribes all the way up to the president of Mexico in certain places. It's corruption all the way through on down the line, and you don't clean that up anytime soon, unfortunately.
No, you really don't. And this administration has made it 80 times worse. Didn't we talk about last week that under current metrics, the Biden administration is on track to bring in over the 4 years, like close to
5 million people or something. We were saying it was close to the state,
the size of the state of Missouri.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Yeah. You're importing another state into our country,
literally.
A pretty decent sized state.
And they only look at it as, those are potential Democratic voters. The demographics and voting patterns are saying that may not necessarily be the case, but still, they're looking at us as voters,
and it shows
potential voters.
It shows that you don't care about the sex trafficking problems. You don't care about the human trafficking problems in general. You don't care about the fentanyl crisis. You don't care about kids being killed. I mean, it just shows all the things the Democrats don't care about because they care so much about this.
Well, these people are looking for a better life.
I know.
That's
I know.
That's their catchphrase.
We can't take everyone, Whew. All right, excellent. Chris's Corner there. If you want to talk to us about that, you can give us a call in the next hour, 314-912-1019. Come back with the Speaker's stump speech. Is CBS joining the party of the Hunter Biden laptop? News Talk, STL.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Definitely not a Republican wave, that's for darn sure.
We start off with 2 words.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy.
Now the 2024 presidential election is in front of us.
The G20 summit.
Climate change and food security.
And I do not think there's any imminent attempt on the part of China to invade Taiwan.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Chris Dorr from the American Firearms Association.
Chris, Democrats notoriously do not want to answer the question, what is an assault weapon?
The AR-15 that they want to ban. When you hear assault weapons ban being used by the radical left, just think firearms ban. They want to get rid of all of them. They use terms that they're not, that they don't bother to define along the way just to try to score points.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
From the House Intelligence Committee and Omar from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. McCarthy says that Schiff's promotion of the Steele dossier and Omar's anti-Semitic comments have put them on the chopping block. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Powerful explosions from shelling have hit Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region, the site of Europe's largest nuclear power plant. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says more than a dozen blasts shook the Russian-occupied facility on Sunday, damaging buildings and equipment. Ukraine has blamed Russia, saying it was trying to prevent the plant from partially restarting to deliver electricity to millions of Ukrainians who are without heat, power or water in the freezing cold. Elsewhere, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said over 400 strikes hit Ukraine's eastern regions on Sunday alone, with blackouts scheduled for 15 regions and the city of Kyiv. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Consumers could quickly start seeing higher gas prices and shortages of some of their favorite groceries if railroads aren't able to agree on contracts with all 12 of their unions ahead of next month's deadline after the latest rejection vote Monday. Congress may ultimately have to step in to protect the economy. Looking at Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average down by 45 points, the Nasdaq dropping 121, the S&P 500 lower by 15. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Hi, this is Dennis Prager. As you know, the culmination of my life's work has been writing my Rational Bible Commentary series. I have done Genesis, Exodus, and the just-released Deuteronomy. They are all called the Rational Bible because my approach is entirely reason-based. So if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift, even for someone with no faith, in fact, especially, I recommend giving them my Rational Bibles. Go to PragerStore.com. You can buy them individually or as a complete set. That's PragerStore.com or click the banner on my website.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks ending lower on Wall Street at the beginning of a holiday-shortened week. The S&P fell 0.4%, while drops in tech companies helped the Nasdaq down 1.1%. The Dow held up better, ending down just 0.1%. The Dow earlier benefited from a big gain in Disney, which soared after replacing CEO Bob Chapek with his predecessor Bob Iger. Banks, healthcare stocks, and makers of household goods did better than the rest of the market.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers. Right now, save 45% off any order during Blindster's Black Friday sale. Hurry, sale ends November 27th. Blindster.com. They cleared that stall from the right lane southbound 270 at McDonald. A crash in the right lane southbound 270 at Olive is now partially blocking the exit ramp, backing up traffic at Dorset. Crowded southbound 270 between 64 and Doherty Ferry. Eastbound 270 slow from Lindbergh to New Florissant. Westbound 64, you're backed up Kings Highway to Bellevue. Slow westbound 4064 between 364 and I-70. And long delays southbound 55 between 44 and Carondelet. A 23-minute travel time southbound 55 from the 44 split to 270. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. More mild days, but we still get pretty chilly in the evenings. In fact, our low goes down to 31 degrees for Tuesday morning, but sunny skies and a quick warm up, a high right around 60 degrees above the normal of 53. So a nice day, mild for late November and sunny. Wednesday, sunny skies, clouds later in the day, but staying dry and a high of 60. No travel problems. We do have a chance of rain by Thanksgiving on Thursday with a high of 54. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey folks, here's great news for active aging seniors. The Kanega Watch, the only medical alert smartwatch with built-in fall detection. Yeah, the Kanega Watch is much different than the other guys. It's a stylish, discreet watch you can wear all the time. Get help through the watch in one of 3 ways. Your voice, pushing the watch's alert button, or have the fall detection connect you to a U.S.-based 24/7 monitoring center who'll speak to you through your watch and can send help to your GPS location nationwide. And get this, it can do knew that even if you're not responsive. This is true 24/7 peace of mind for you and those that love you. Order your Kanega watch with a full refund 30-day trial period. Call now. 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. 800-413-7152. That's 800-413-7152.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What citizen wouldn't want to make America great again?
Live and local.
And their leadership has been substandard.
I think the word substandard is immensely polite.
This is News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Look, I will say this, and I've said this many times before, we do not politicize the Department of Justice. That is something that the president said during the campaign. That is something that the president said in his early days of being in the White House, and that continues to be true.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, 5:07, nearly 5:08 in the PM here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. We're going to give away a pair of Guns N' Hoses tickets at the end of the Susie Moore segment, the end of the Susie Moore Red State segment. That'll be around 5:40 in the PM. Chris, do you agree with Cringe Jean-Pierre there?
Before we get to that, how close have you gotten to saying Guns N' Roses?
Guns N'
Roses
hoses?
Instead of hoses.
Roses?
Yeah.
Oh, very close. Very close. Very close. Because that band for me is very part and parcel of my formative years. So
I'm proud of you. You haven't said Guns N' Roses. You've said Guns N' Hoses every time.
It's been right there on the tip of my tongue because I came of age when Guns N' Roses hit the scene. I was in high school. Right. So what do you do in high school? You listen to a lot of contemporary music, right?
Peggy played some Guns N' Roses stuff in high school. So when one of those songs comes on, she rocks it. I'm like, Peggy, you're too old to rock like that in the car.
No, she's
gonna kill me when I get it. She's rocking out to it, man. Seriously.
So okay, I'll tell this story. The story's a little embarrassing, but when I was a junior maybe in high school, so I mean Guns N' Roses, man, that was the soundtrack of my high school years between 85 and 89. They were huge, right? Yeah. One of my best friends who I saw yesterday, we had have you guys heard of Friendsgiving? The whole thing inspired by the Friends series. So we've never really done one of those, but my high school era friends, they decided to have a Friendsgiving thing. And at first I was like, oh, for the love, I got to go to this on a Sunday afternoon. It's the last thing I want to do. Had a good time. We had about 40 of us because it was everybody and their kids. Mm-hmm. So now I got the second generation there. Most of these kids are like Stell's height. I don't know what they've been feeding these kids, but they're all taller than me, you know. And anyway, it was really good. But what was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So one of my very best friends from high school, my buddy Kurt, he was a musician, played guitar back in high school, and was really into music, even more than I was into music. He was super into music. And he said to me back in the mid-'80s, Tim, you got to check out this new band. They're called Guns N' Roses. I'm like, well, that's an interesting name. He goes, let me tell you. And he was right. He was very prophetic. He said, this is either going to be one of the biggest, longest-running rock bands in the world, or they're going to self-destruct. And they self-destructed.
Yeah.
But they had
They're trying to
run.
make a comeback. Everybody always, everybody sees Axl Rose nowadays, and they just dog him out because he's kind of portly now. And like,
Yeah, he looks a little rough, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the 80s band, from 80 to 85 was Duran Duran. They were the band of the early 80s. And then from 85 to early 90s, it was Guns N' Roses. And then after that, Pearl Jam was the 90s band. But I think every era has their band, and I think it was Duran Duran, and then Guns N' Roses, and then Pearl Jam of the 90s. What do you think of that?
I agree with that. Yeah. Pearl Jam definitely for me was the 90s.
Yeah.
Like that
was the 90s band.
The 90s. I mean, you had the grunge scene. So I always think of Pearl Jam and I think of Kurt Cobain, Nirvana.
Yeah.
I think Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I think of Smashing Pumpkins. I think of those bands, but definitely that grungy scene. I mean, freaking Pearl Jam has their own channel on satellite radio. That's how big they are. So, my embarrassing story. So, Chris, you know how you always talk about, you mentioned that certain songs put you right back at the place that you remember hearing them at a pivotal point in your life. Like you remember everything about it. That happens to me a little bit. There's this, so Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine.
That's the song.
Reminds me of my wife. If my wife's listening, she's going to make fun of me tonight. I was trying to date, this was way before I met Suzanne, okay? I was back in high school. I'm a high school kid. I was chasing after this young lady, and I never dated her, but I wanted to. And that song reminds me of her. Her name was, check this, I'm not making this name up. Her name was Angel Heart.
Angel Heart.
Angel Heart.
Who wouldn't want to date Angel Heart?
H-A-R-T. H-A-R-T. Angel Heart. And I had a buddy who had a really cool Mustang GT 5.0. And I had a pickup. I had a little pickup truck, little Nissan. Remember the little Nissan Datsun toy trucks, the pickups? Yeah. I had one of those. And so we would trade cars every once in a while because he was older than me, and he did a lot of he had like a green he worked with me at the golf course, but he also had a lawn business. And so he always needed, so I would get to borrow his Mustang, last thing a 17-year-old kid needed, right?
Exactly.
And he would borrow my pickup. Well, I used to impress Angel Heart with that. It had T-tops. It was one of the old school Mustang GTs with the T-tops. Man, I thought I was the bee's knees.
You were.
So anyway, so there we go. Guns N' Roses, Angel Heart, and the Mustang 5.0.
And you always drove the speed limit when Guns N' Roses was on, and that
Chris, there's another story about that. I'll have to tell you something. Oh man,
hey. You want a speed limit story?
Uh-oh.
Since Thanksgiving is coming up, this was years ago. I had a Ford Probe. Kathy and I had a Ford Probe, which was very sports car-ish.
I remember the Probe.
Yeah.
Remember the Probe? Yeah. And Kathy was already up in Handle. I drove up, and Thanksgiving morning, nobody's on Highway 61 going up from St. Louis to Hannibal. I've got Santana cracked up in the car, and I am cruising, going through every little town there on 61, and a cop finally catches up to me.
Finally catches up to you, huh?
Somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and I pull over, and he comes up to the window, and he goes, "Come on, kid. I mean, I've been following you for 10 miles. Haven't you even seen me?" And I said, "Sorry, officer. I've had the music cranked up here. I got Santana cranked up in the car." And he goes, "You were going to 85 into 65. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was going that fast." So that would really be my only speeding ticket in a